OK, right. Let us now turn our attention to one of the greats of world cricket, certainly one of the greats of Pakistan cricket, Imran Khan. Michael Allison spent time early this year in Pakistan, and this was the result.
Imran Khan is Pakistan's greatest cricketer. He was a world-class all-rounder who brought a sense of pride and stability as captain, culminating in a memorable evening in Melbourne in 1992 when he lifted the World Cup for the first time for Pakistan. But more than that, how many great players have interesting and fulfilling second acts? Imran has, initially through the building of the cancer hospital set up in his mother's name, and then by founding the Movement for Justice Party, which he did in 1996, and is now one of Pakistan's main opposition parties.
In life, if to succeed, you have to have total passion and total commitment.
He created around him one of the greatest cricket teams the world has ever known.
With Pakistan and England, there was always this tension between the two teams.
Pakistan win the World Cup.
Imran Khan was the nearest thing that cricket has produced to a world historical figure.
You've got to believe that you're going to win. And I have never not believed that one day I'm going to win.
Now, the impression you get of Imran Khan today is of the politician. He's left cricket behind. He's had all kinds of offers to stay in the game, but he's now become this formidable politician with really glowing eyes either on the becoming Prime Minister or President of Pakistan.
I got unprecedented access to Imran as he campaigned around the country. It was a rare opportunity to watch and assess what drives and inspires the former cricketer and would-be Prime Minister. At his home, set in the beautiful hills just outside of central Islamabad, I got an opportunity to sit down and talk with him about his life before, during and after cricket. We're very close to the tribal areas there. It's not a place necessarily where a Western journalist would be encouraged to go. I mean, what about you, though? Do you have concerns for your safety in the role that you have now?
There was more risk than there is now. I mean, when we first came into Bath 2.5 years ago, our minister got blown up by a suicide bomber, and two of our members of parliament, my party's members of parliament, got again one shot, one killed by a suicide bomber. So there was a lot of tension in the beginning. But gradually, the police in this province has improved. It's a model police now for the rest of Pakistan. But there's still fighting going on there. So you didn't realize you could have been...
No, I realised you were travelling in a bulletproof car and we weren't. And then we went to...
You were less at risk than I was.
By the time that Imran Khan became Pakistan cricket captain, he was incredibly well prepared for the job. He wasn't just that he'd evolved to become a great cricketer, and that had been a long journey, but that he had educationally, he'd been qualified, he'd been to Oxford University, he'd lived a lot. And so being Pakistan cricket captain has all kinds of demands which many people simply can't cope with. But by the time Imran Khan became captain, he was a leader of men with undoubted personal authority. And that is what made him into one of the great captains that any Test match side has ever had.
Maybe a massive generalisation, but your father seemed to be a very proud patriot with a very strong work ethic. And on your mother's side came the cricketing influence, because the Burke's produced, what, upwards of 30 first-class cricketers and 3 Pakistan captains.
Yes, the mother's side was very sporty, not just in cricket. I mean, my mother's first cousin was captain of hockey, Pakistan team, I think, which won the Olympics. And her brother, there were 3 sisters, and her brother was used to play at the national level, at the not the international level, but the national level, hockey and cricket. So they were very sporty. The Burkis were a very sporty family. My father was a Niazi, and they were they lived in this place called Miawali, which was at that time wild. You know, it was like Wild West. So it had the highest murder rate in the Punjab districts when I was growing up. So it was there were two contrasting families.
Pre-partition in 1947, Imran's family actually lived in Jalandhar, which is now in India. So at partition, the family came over to Lahore, and this is where they settled in Zaman Park, or I should say Zaman Park. And there are lots of houses here that belong to Imran's family, his uncle Jahangir Khan, his cousin Majid Khan. Imran's family's house is here as well. And this is where all the boys played. The Burki side of the family, which is Imran's mother's side, produced all the cricketers, about 30 or 40 first-class cricketers, 3 captains of Pakistan, and this is where they played their cricket. It was a very quiet suburb back in the 50s. You can hear the noise of the traffic now, but back then, 40, 50 years ago, it was a very quiet, green and pleasant place for young boys to grow up and play cricket. Here we are outside Imran's family house. It's a very spacious house, as you can see, with nice grounds as well, perfect for a young boy who has got lots of energy and wants to run around. Imran's sister still lives here, and when Imran comes back to Lahore, this is where he stays. Well, there are some lovely old photographs in Imran's family house, starting here with his father and Princess Diana, Imran's mother, after whom the cancer hospital was named. Of course, a beautiful old photograph of Imran's mother and father on their wedding day. Imran's boys. There's a couple of Imran's sisters with Jemima and Princess Diana again. Imran as a young baby, and the wedding photograph, Imran and Jemima. And we went to Zaman Park. It looked an absolutely idyllic place to grow up. Very green, very spacious, a little kind of park at the end of the road, uncles and aunts, open houses, lots of cousins, a very outdoorsy, athletic type of childhood.
Very. It was an ideal childhood because I went to HSN College, which was just next to Zaman Park, so which had great sports facilities. My family all went there, my mother's family. And then on the other side, I used to come back and go to Zaman Park, where all the cousins ranging from when I was growing up between 20s to 8, 9 years old, which is what I was. So we would then play in that park. And so I grew up just knowing Zaman Park and HSN College. And I did my studies, and then it was sports.
Well, we sat in the cricket pavilion of HSN College, Imran Khan's old school. It was founded way back in 1886, and it was founded initially to educate the nobility of the Punjab. But after partition in 1947, it became a little more democratic and took in many middle-class boys from Lahore, such as Imran, who lived only about 5 minutes away, so it was a very easy journey into school every day for him. Magnificent grounds. It's renowned, really, as the Eton of Pakistan. A bit like Eton, it's not actually produced that many great cricketers, despite the magnificent ground and facilities here. There was Majid Khan, his son Bazid, Wahab Riaz came here as well, Ramiz Raja, of course Imran, the most famous of the old boys. But Pakistan's cricket, although it was important in the development of cricket here in Lahore, is beyond these green fields and outside the walls, in the streets and the valleys and the mountains and the villages and the cities. But it is a magnificent school. What are your memories of Imran as a student at HSN College?
I was in charge of class 8, meaning he would have been 12 or 13. And I received the list of the class in order of merit from the previous class, and I found that he was almost at the bottom.
You mentioned HSN College. We went there. We spoke to Major Langland, who taught you, and said that when you arrived, you were bottom of the class. By the time you finished, you were somewhere midstream. You haven't always been completely kind about HSN, though, have you? I mean, in the sense that you feel it's tried to ape the English public school system too far?
You see, I felt that the Pakistan education system should have changed to what was an independent country. We should not have had this two-tiered system for the elite English medium and for the rest Urdu medium. I just thought that was apart from the fact that it was distorting national identity, it was also unfair, because if you went to an English medium school, you had opportunities you had very good job prospects. At that time, when I was growing up, the civil service was the most coveted positions, the service to be in. And, you know, if you went to HSN, you had a very good chance of making it to the civil services. You got better education, and you were taught in the English medium. The Urdu medium were at a huge disadvantage.
You left HSN, went to Worcester Grammar School and Oxford University, played a lot of county cricket in England. How did you look upon county cricket? Did you? I mean, we look upon that period as a golden age of county cricket because of the great overseas players that played there in the way that they don't now. But did you see it as a bit of a grind, or did you see it as a useful finishing school?
I loved county cricket when I started off. I mean, as an 18-year-old, when I was offered a position at Worcester, I really wasn't good enough. But there was a wing commander, Shakespeare, who was then the chairman of Worcestershire Committee, and he brought me and he said, I think you've got great talent and I want you to play for Worcester. And he died over the winter, and so the others clearly didn't think at Worcester that I had that much of a talent, and they gave that overseas cricketers registration to someone else. I was supposed to get it the next year, so this was in '72. They gave it to someone else, so I played second team cricket. But I loved county cricket in the beginning because it was just new, and you know, I had this passion for cricket. It was very high quality of cricket at that time for me, and so for at least 10 years from the time I started playing, I loved county cricket. And then it became difficult because I was an all-rounder, a fast bowler, and playing every day. And then the atmosphere in the dressing room also used to be, people would treat it more as a job. For me, it was a passion. But you're right, the quality of cricket was very high in the 70s, even in 80s, when they were restricted to 2 overseas cricketers. But in 70s, there would be 4 or 5 overseas cricketers in a team, and very high standard. And that's where I really learned. It was a great place for me to learn cricket.
Another flushing cover drive, a glorious shot there from Imran Khan. Really hit that one on the up. It was nothing like a half volley. Powered it away to bring the 200 up for his side.
Did you experience much racism in county cricket?
Yes, I did. When I first came, I remember as an 18-year-old, after the match in Bradford, we were walking on the streets, looking at the shops. The shops were closed. 6 of us, 1 was walking behind, 5 of us were walking in, together. And suddenly 2 police guys came out of an alley, grabbed him. So we turned around, and they sort of looked at us. They realized he was not alone. They shook him and threw him on the ground and said, "Keep it quiet." So I was so shocked. It was my first experience of seeing racism. And then we grew up reading English books about the English constable and the Bobby and how, he was. And suddenly I saw this. So that was my first, I remember being shocked by that. And there were undertones of racism among certain county cricketers. As I was growing up, I noticed this. But gradually this started going down, because as the awareness, there was feeling against the racists. Anti-racism grew in England during my time. I mean, from a boy as I grew up, I noticed that it started subsiding. But I remember one meeting of Cricketers Association at Birmingham, where the cricketers got together, the professional cricketers, and they said that there should be a ban on overseas cricketers. And we were sitting there. So I remember that. But that wasn't racism. That was more like job protection, which is completely against the spirit of being competitive. And I remember I used to be saying then that you will destroy your, if overseas cricketers go, the standard will come down, and actually you won't be able to produce quality players. I wish I was born an angel and I would never have committed a sin in my life, but I wasn't. I was born in a society where I was influenced by various heroes, pop stars, you know, when I was growing up. I had a westernized education which removed me from Islam.
Throughout the time in England, you had a kind of playboy image amongst the tabloid newspapers. You spent quite a bit of time at Tramp nightclub, you had a lot of high-profile girlfriends. How do you look back now at that phase of your life?
I hardly remember it. I'm serious. I don't even remember it. My philosophy of life is never to look back. You know, for me, past is only to learn from and then move on. I never have nostalgia, never have feeling of ever wanting to go back to HSN or going back to Oxford or going back to cricket. The day I left cricket, it was over for me. So I firmly believe that the moment you look back, you can't move forward. There is only one way to move, and that is forward, and past is to learn from. So I hardly remember any of my life there. And whatever my life now is far more interesting and exciting for me than it was in the past. That's why I don't remember it.
Imran Khan. And he's gone. Beautifully bowled. What a good delivery. That's a delivery from Imran. Well, that's it. 7 wickets in innings for Imran Khan.
Two aspects to your bowling I wanted to touch on. You got to county cricket and you were a medium-pace bowler, really. A, where did the pace come from? And B, reverse swing is the great kind of, not mystery, but the great art that Pakistan fast bowlers have exploited and perfected, and how that particular art was passed down from maybe Sarfraz to you to Wasim and onwards.
Well, firstly, I actually became quite quick, but I had a Jeff Thompson type slinging action. So when I played my first test match, I actually was a slinger. But over the winter, I realized that with that action, I had no accuracy. I was all over the place. So I wanted to bowl fast. And I had the temperament of a fast bowler, but they wanted me to bowl these big in-swingers. And so when I played for Oxford, that's where I could do whatever I wanted to, and I always tried bowling fast. And gradually, as I got stronger, and actually once I left university, that's when I was playing full-time cricket. My body got stronger, and that's when I started adapting my action to a fast bowler's action.
And the reverse swing, was that passed down from Sarfraz?
A reverse swing used to happen in Pakistan all the time, because here, most of the wickets did not have any grass on them. So the ball would get roughed up after about 10, 15 overs, and you could do the orthodox swing here. So barely you would be able to bowl the orthodox swing in the first 10 overs. Then it was over. So then everyone, even club cricketers, would reverse swing it. But we gradually developed it, because what we didn't realize was that if the other side, if you put sweat on the other side, because in hot conditions, when you had sweat on your hands, the other side would get smoothed up and wouldn't swing. So then we learned the art was that you must keep the other side dry, because that's where the resistance came.
No, it's all right. Off you go. One rule for one for another.
If you look at the history of English-Pakistan cricket, there's one scandal, row, controversy after another. And sometimes it's the fault of the Pakistanis. More often than not, it's the fault of the English. The English have a particularly in the early years, have this sense that they own cricket and that they know how to do it, and that these Pakistanis are cheats.
I wanted to talk about Pakistan and England, the relationships between the two countries in cricketing terms. There's always been a level of mistrust between the two teams. I wanted to just quote you Peter Oborne, who wrote the book History of Pakistan Cricket. He said, "Cricket writing about Pakistan has sometimes fallen into the wrong hands. It's been carried out by people who do not like Pakistan, are suspicious of Pakistanis and have their own perceptions. Autobiographies by England cricketers, with some exceptions, are blind to the beauty of Pakistan and the warmth and generosity of its people." Would you agree?
I completely agree with Peter. I think our series got started off in the 70s when I started playing. There was always this tension between the two teams, which wasn't when, for instance, England played India. You didn't see the tension. But with Pakistan and England, there was always this bit of an edge, you know. And it all fell apart with the Gatting-Shakur Rana incident.
For the second test in Faisalabad, Shakur Rana, against England's wishes, was appointed despite a history of disputes with touring teams, and he quickly gave a poor decision against Graham Gooch. So to the public slanging match yesterday, which sparked the crisis. First, to what seemed an unnecessary intervention by Rana from square leg for a legitimate change of field by the England captain.
There's some sort of a discussion there. The umpire signalling dead ball.
The cue for an equally unnecessary and undisciplined loss of temper by Gatting, which may yet lead to his punishment, though he must have had good reason to get as angry as he did.
You mentioned the Shakur Rana, but that wasn't the first instance, actually. I mean, way back, the kidnapping of Idris Baig back in the 50s by Donald Carr's team. Your team, I remember, complained about David Constant, then Mike Gatting and Shakur Rana. This has been an ongoing issue between the teams.
Yeah, and I think the umpiring was an issue, because English players always thought that whenever Pakistani umpires, they didn't make mistakes, they cheated, whereas English umpires only made mistakes. So we were not allowed to call them cheats, but they were allowed to call us cheats. And I think that started with the tension. That's why I led this campaign for neutral umpires, because I thought the only way out is to have neutral umpires. Then we heard from the English establishment, well, Pakistan should have neutral umpires, but our umpires are good enough, you know.
We might have a caricature of the Pakistan cricketer. Is there a caricature in reverse? Do you see us as boring, risk-free, conservative cricketers?
Whinging.
The match-fixing scandal has rocked the subcontinent for years, and now former Pakistan skipper Salim Malik has been found guilty after a lengthy investigation.
It was, for me, the saddest part of Pakistan cricket, because I think the team, when I left in '92, I think was the best team in world cricket.
So you've got your tiger on again, you want them to play like cornered tigers?
Yes, that's the motto recently, and they've done a great job, you know. They've played like tigers, especially the younger boys, you know.
Imran has this enormous personal self-confidence. He also has the confidence to tell the authorities to get lost.